Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here, just getting the truck ready to do the work, and that work today is getting our potatoes to customs. So, have a lot of hauling to do. If I've estimated correctly, I've got 56 truckloads to run to get this load of potatoes out of my root cellar and into the customs silo. So, good news is, obviously nobody's got anything going on in Field 8. Nobody owns it, so I'll be able to run across from here over there. But that should help. So, again, 2,011,744 liters. So, plenty of potatoes. Pretty much for anyone, I would think. I'm thinking that's, I don't know. I've not looked. I guess I could have spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what the true consumption of potatoes is like in the world for certain things, and you know, how many bags of potato chips that would make or whatever, but I didn't, as I know this is going to take enough time as it is. So we're going to get hauling on that. I'll chat with you for a bit, but this will be a pretty short video, I'm anticipating, because short of just having something to talk with you about, this is pretty much what you're going to see. The back of a truck, driving across the river, going to the customs silo, and coming back. And repeating 55 more times after, whoa, that's not good. And hopefully we don't have a whole lot of that happening. Well, this is great. Now I can't. Oh, I'm trying to go in reverse. I don't need to go in reverse. Again, I hit the space bar. My goodness. Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't repeat this 55 times, because this is, what, wasting like 30 seconds already, and if I multiply that, I've got half an hour of wasted time just trying to straighten up my truck, and of course if I fall off into the river, that just makes it worse. But no, the challenge is the truck definitely handles more poorly with the added weight. But I'm also thinking part of what we're hitting there is the wetness probably impacts the traction too, which probably isn't helping here. Once again, it would be great to have something like differential lock that, at least in 19, greatly changed the ability of vehicles to do stuff like that. But this should be a little bit better as far as covering things, but yeah, I'll just have to be careful as I come up to the bridge and so forth to maybe slow down a bit and go from there. Not sure. I don't know. I'm going to come in this way. I don't know that it one way or the other matters, but I'm going to try it, because usually I'm kind of used to approaching customs from the other side, simply because the boards used to be here, but now that we don't really have any readouts, there's less to worry about specifically. But yeah, so we'll take a look at that. And then, you know, the challenge here again is there's not really a way to see what we've got dropped into customs, so we have to kind of make note of it ahead of time, which is exactly what I did. As I was telling you, I wrote the number down so that I can place it in detail with C5, who's the broker we're working with. I did actually send him a note before I started this afternoon letting him know I'm moving this stuff over, but obviously because I've got so many runs with the truck, it's going to take me a bit of time. So I told him, my intent is to get this all done today. But as you can see, it's already 3:09. Again, very close to the real time. So the other thing we've discovered, I don't know if that's going to cause some issues or not. I guess the servers weren't rebooting daily as they were supposed to. So someone had brought up the fact that we're not having to time sync a lot. Whoops, I'm not going in there. I'm just so used to going in there. But the silo I need is out here. So, but yeah, people had noted, wow, the servers are doing a great job, and then there was some speculation maybe ops people were popping into our servers, like doing general work, and then while they were in there noticing the time was off and just syncing for us. But that's when the discovery was made by folks that the operations folks that no, it's not us being nice, it's just the first time I went around it worked beautifully. Now, not so beautifully. So this is gonna be frustrating and take longer. There we go. So, but yeah, they made a note, I think literally yesterday or something, maybe it was even this morning, that yeah, when they went in, the last time the servers rebooted was 2 weeks ago, and that as far as the automation was concerned, it was going to reboot on the 12th. Well, we're 13 days past the 12th, so obviously something is broken. So they've submitted a ticket with Nitrato, who's the folks that manage the servers, to hopefully get that resolved. And so that's what's going on right now with that. So hopefully tonight we'll be back on a reboot cycle, and that'll clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up. I've not noticed any ill effects on the server. So yeah, I'm gonna take this turn a little bit slower than I did last time. Just because, like I said, maybe it's just simulating an extremely heavy truck with potatoes sliding in the mud as I try to make a sharp turn. So, but in either event, this was way faster than what I had to do before. So at least if I can keep that going, I'm hoping, I just don't know. I don't think it's taking me 6 minutes round trip, but my hope was like, wow, if I'm doing just like 10 trucks an hour, it's still going to take me 5.5 hours. It's a long time driving trucks. It's one thing if I'm doing it in Truck Simulator and something more exciting is going on, but driving this thing in circles between customs and me, 5.5 hours of that. Even less exciting than driving the Canada map and ATS. If such a thing is possible, that would be it. So truck number 2. So I've got 72,000 plus liters sitting there ready to go. Now, if I recall, the custom silos are able to take 2.5 million liters. So the only challenge we'd have is if somehow someone else had potatoes in there, but I don't think anybody on our server is even growing potatoes. So until somehow my truck just stops dumping things or whatever, I'm just going to keep taking loads to it. But I'm just glad, for multiple reasons, that I didn't exceed 2.5 million liters. But the scary thing is, yeah, like if I had planted the whole field, absolutely would have. Assuming I got it done, because again, we only had 2 days to harvest. We had that marathon day that we were able to pull off, but I'll tell you, that took a toll on me. That's partially why I've waited a bit. I was like, I just need to play something else yesterday, so I didn't even check Farming Simulator, aside from the fact that I'm doing it again. it's just so automated to think like everything I need to do is in that yard. So having that root cellar out here, so maybe by the, I don't know, 50th truckload or something, I'll get it right. You know, the good news, given the late start, the fact that it's raining and dingy is, you know, hopefully that floodlight will come on soon, but that thing I think was a godsend the other night when we were working so late, because I can't even imagine what it would have looked like to try to be getting back here in the trees and just using the lights from the truck. So, but I know we've been asked by FSN ops in the past, like, you know, there's not a reason to light your farm up, as if you can't have any, you know, any dark corners or something. So try to, you know, use the lights you need, but don't go crazy, because we used to have people on servers that would, you know, put 10, 20 spotlights up around their yard, and it's like, okay, great, you can see really well, but, and you had lots of money, so lights aren't that expensive. Great, you bought all kinds of lights, but just like anything, they all take a toll on server performance. So I got by with 2, and that really, I think, will be all I need, because I used kind of a gigantic one over my main yard. Was worried I was going a little too quick, but you know, I also have the flip side here, where the more speed I can carry onto this hill, obviously, the easier it'll be to get up here. But yeah, it's a lot of potatoes. I mean, obviously, you know, it'd still be a lot of loads if I was able to run this thing full at 59,000 or 57,000, whatever it is. I honestly have lost track, because I've never been able to achieve the maximum capacity. So it would be easier if I could to remember it, but since it's not usable, it, you know, it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, but the nice thing here, certainly compared to what we had in Hilly Seneca, the customs approach here is, I mean, there's tons of room, as you can see. If you go back and look at my Hilly Seneca videos, whenever we're doing anything with customs, it was pretty easy to mess up there, and we often had folks, there was like a hill and then a cemetery at the bottom of that hill right next to customs, and especially in winter, if we had contracts being filled, it was quite common for contractors to end up having the trucks stuck on the gravestones in the cemetery, which effectively shuts down the ability to do a lot until ops comes in and frees that, then resets that truck. Now there's 2 trucks, but if they do that with a tanker, there's only 1. So it's not entirely true, it just depends how motivated the contractor is, but usually what we seem to have found is, like, once they did that, they kind of were like, I'm just leaving the server now, and I've done what I can, and sorry, your truck's in the graveyard. But that also then made stuff like this a lot more challenging, because you know, you'd have to drive around customs quite slowly. I mean, even when it wasn't winter, to just avoid running into things. There were a lot of trees around, there was a lot of things, so this is certainly a simpler way to get to it, so that helps keep this moving along pretty quickly. So that is a great thing as well. But that's about all I've got. I have not done the math, you know, put anything in the spreadsheet yet of what these potatoes will fetch for me at the 225,000 or $225 a liter that I'm getting, or per 1,000 liters that I'm getting. I wish it was per liter, but you know, I'm thinking it's going to be about 400 400 to 500,000-ish. Probably going to be closer to the 400, because again, if you remember, I needed 471,000 liters just to cover the $106,000 in supplies that went into this field, meaning the seeds, the fert, and that, I guess, is really it, because we didn't have to spray for weeds this time. We didn't, we already had the lime, so that's like included in the overall cost of the farm, but I didn't have it entirely included in the cost of the field this time in the crop. So normally what I do is just, the year I run that, like, it will be associated with the crop, but the first year here we didn't have any crops in the ground, so I had a year of basically just expenses, where I think it was $80,000 or something, which would have been the lime and, it might have just been the lime. I don't know. I'm trying to think what else I might be putting down in the field, because, we did plow the field, we did roll the field, but none of those things are consuming supplies. But fertilization and seeding would have gone with the crops. And so obviously when we grew the canola, we had that up there. And as long as we turn any kind of profit, that's good. I've never had a year that I didn't make money on a crop, and I'm assuming that doesn't really happen in Farming Simulator unless you've done something kind of ridiculous. But certainly if you have weather-related issues, like a crop withers because you can't get to it, because going back to what we had talked about when I planted potatoes, there are things that are harvestable today, that those crops I didn't grow. But if I did, and if now is the time I can get on the server, I can't harvest in the rain. And so if I had planted oats, say, and I'm not sure if oats is in the October window for harvest, and I frankly don't want to take the time to even stop for 15 seconds to look at the calendar. If you're truly interested, you can peek yourself in Farming Simulator. My goal is to just get these trucks done. So, and it's just more something to chat about and give you information about. But we wouldn't be able to harvest. We'd be on here and basically, can't do the work we were planning. And so it would be calling an audible. Is there something else we can do in the meantime? Because we do see, the sun is there. It's the one thing I also haven't had to try to deal with yet. So with seasons, mainly, it wasn't really a precision farming thing in that case. The other issue you would have is there was drying time, and there was a tool that you could use to measure the moisture of your crops, along with measuring many other things with it. And so that moisture level had to get below 20% before you could harvest. So when it stopped raining, it's not like, oop, it stopped raining and in 2 minutes I'm harvesting. You usually had to wait hours and hours, if not days sometimes, for the crops to be dry enough to be harvested. What I don't know is in FS22, because, again, it doesn't keep us from plowing frozen ground. It doesn't do the other things that seasons used to do in FS19. I'm not sure if the moment it stops raining, I would be able to start harvesting. I'm sure we're going to get that opportunity to at least somewhat check it out, if nothing else, that it would be, because what would likely happen if I did have oats, let's say I popped in, it's raining, okay, I see the sun. I know that usually means 2-3 hours. That's going to be what the weather is. It could be sooner, could be a little bit later, but that's always kind of a good ballpark, unless you have time and you're sitting around. It doesn't really hurt to log back into the server, see what it looks like every half hour, but the likelihood would be we could get in, and in FS19 that kind of a window would be too small anyway. I don't think I've ever seen crops ready to harvest 2 hours after the rain stopped. It's usually the rain stops in the morning and by the evening you're able to harvest, type of thing. So, so it's possible you know, I'll be on the server, but it's not like I've seen any moisture indicator. Plus, I can't harvest anything, but there will be times that I'm sure I'll be doing something like this, and then I would sign off and come back on in 2-3 hours and say that, you know, it was in the sunny state. You know, see if I could harvest, and that will kind of give me the answer there. But that's part of learning the mechanics of the new setup and how it works. And, you know, again, that all was functional that way because of Seasons that was on the servers all the time, or the entire time I was in FSN at least, because I think Seasons had been around for quite a while at that point. In Farming Simulator, I don't know if it was here from day one in FSN, because I wasn't part of the community then, but I'm assuming it probably was. But those features were there before our server was converted to precision farming. So, and I can't tell you how many times I was like, oh, I can work for 2 or 3 hours now, get on, realize it's raining, you know, and there the crop calendar would also give you like drying capability. So you'd get either, it'd go from 2 pluses to 2 minuses, where basically the minuses were crops aren't going to be drying, like it's very, very unconducive to crop drying, to 2 pluses would basically be crops are going to dry really fast, like the conditions are great. And so it was a combination of wind and heat and, you know, sunlight type thing. Because also, like, once it got dark, you know, as it was nighttime, if it was cloudy like it is now, even though it might be, I mean, it is October, it's probably not that warm, but if this was early summer or something, you know, it could still be 80, but cloudy, and then you're not really getting any drying because it's hot, but the sun isn't making the evaporation go. So you may have noticed, I haven't commented on it, but I have remembered where my root cellar is. So I think this is the 3rd or 4th truck that I've come back with, that I've gone to the right place and not had to cut through the trees again. So very proud of myself. If no one else is, that's okay. I don't need outside approval. I'm confident in my own ability to be happy. So I'm happy because I'm doing what I need to be doing with it. So, yeah, I don't know that there's a whole lot more to say. I think I've covered the weather. I think I've covered what we're doing. So I am going to keep moving on this for a bit, and when the mood strikes me, you'll see a little bit more. This is not something I'm going to time lapse. I mean, it's a truck driving back and forth. Even as a farm simulating enthusiast, I'm not thinking there's a whole lot of desire to see a truck moving around, because that's what Truck Simulator is for. If you want to see that, those people will go there. If people want to see time lapses of beautiful farm work happening, they're looking for combines on the field and potato harvesters and plows turning up dirt and whatever. This is just a truck full of little brown dots driving back and forth between 2 silos. So no time lapse here. This will definitely just be jump cuts, and you'll see me in literally half a second with whatever's next. So I figured it's half the fun as you're driving nearly 60 trucks of potatoes when you see something really crazy, so I wanted to share it with you. Watch the trees over there on the left by the shore. You're going to see like a crop circle or something appear pretty soon, right about now. There it is. Did you see it? If you didn't see it, it's probably going to be my thumbnail. But it probably was happening when I was doing the other part of the video, so it's probably there a bunch of times for the 4 or 5 trips I made. It's just at some point I started noticing it, because obviously I'm, you know, in a trance doing this stuff. It's kind of crazy, but anyway, I figured I'd share it with you so that you could see it in video form, aside from just see it in the thumbnail and kind of understand where it is. but I'm not even halfway done yet. It's been nearly 2 hours, so this is taking a long time. Welcome back. So I have been busy with the spuds. Definitely a lot going on as I envisioned. Always, as happens, honestly, with everything in Farming Simulator, not just, I was going to say with this harvest, but every time I estimate something, I'm always on the low end. So delivering these potatoes has taken me about 4 hours. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm well into the next month. So, as you might guess, I couldn't do 4 hours straight just delivering. I had to break it into multiple times. But this is now going to be the last load. And it's just probably 4,000 liters. So it's just a little bit more than what I could fit with all the full trucks. I haven't totally counted exactly how many it is, but like I said, it's between 50 and 60 truckloads was the math that would have given us what we had. So let's call it that. 55 to 57 trucks is probably what we've got, and basically I think the best I was able to really run at was 17, 18 trucks an hour. So, kind of, as you can see, and again, I got hung up sometimes. Just like I might here, you pull around, you don't get the trigger, so you're sitting here playing the game of backing up. This is all obviously chewing up time. So, it's this kind of stuff. And then there were times I caught the fence when I was driving into the silo. So yeah, even less, 2,557 liters, but that's how it works. Come on, really? And that's the kind of stuff that then happens too, where I'm just spinning for 5-10 seconds, not going anywhere. And it's not that heavy of a truck, so one of the reasons I was going around that way was in case I got stuck around the back somewhere, not having all that weight fighting against me as well allowed the truck to actually pull the vehicle out. So that's how that was decided and how that's been running, but nothing too crazy. You'll have seen my fun little crop circle thing that I shared with you in the previous short segment, and seen it in the thumbnail too, I'm sure. But that's been the most unique thing that's happened, which is pretty typical. It's not like Farming Simulator creates a lot of uniqueness in some cases. That's kind of the nature of jobs, work, whatever. I mean, if we had to solve new problems every time, farmers would never make any money because they'd be spending so much time trying to figure out exactly how they needed to attack things. It's once they're able to start honing in on the efficiency and so forth that it all works out. So, but the challenge ends up being, okay, it was 4 hours to haul, it was 8 to 10 hours to plant, it was, turned out to be 14 and a half hours, I think, to harvest, but that was with help in the back half, so that could likely have very much turned into 20 to 24 hours of harvest if I had to do that whole thing solo. So, we're talking 30, at least 30 hours to do the work, and, and I'm not counting the fertilizing I had to do and all that went in there. So I mean, we're talking 40, 50, perhaps 60 hours of work in this potato crop, which is just crazy. I mean, when you think of it, if I paid contractors to do it, and that was really kind of how it was divided, be $300,000 on something that maybe I'm going to get $400,000 or $500,000 on And so then having the 100,000 in crop, like I might have literally just broke even if I used contractors for this. So this is not a cash crop by any means. This is, I don't know, you love potatoes, or there's a purpose, like what I'm doing here, where there's a need for potatoes worldwide in the group project to get the Suez Canal built. So, we're supplying that. So at this point, C5 and C5 is the broker that I've been working with. We've been chatting a bit, so I kind of gave him a heads up when I was starting the harvest. I then gave him a heads up that I was moving the crops to the silo, just so he knew that things were coming and that there wouldn't be just this drop from me of, hey, I've got the 2 million liters of potatoes. And again, because it was so much, I definitely wanted to be upfront, because I think, maybe most people will be expecting a few 100,000 liters, maybe 500,000 liters would be typical, especially in FS22 now with this limit, because there aren't that many people that are frankly insane enough, as I was, to do 50 trucks of potatoes. The good news for anybody that's going to be helping fulfill that contract or the contracts for C5 is the, why is this not cleaning? The FSN trucks do take the full 100,000 is my understanding, so, but it's still going to be 21 trucks. It's not like, there's just no way to minimize how gigantic this harvest was. So I feel a sense of accomplishment for having gotten it done. I've certainly learned a lot. One of which, I got the opportunity to learn about the fertilizer situation. It's helped me in the future of the farm, because again, we're not doing things that are fully unique each time. So that fertilizing knowledge will be transferable to the next crops. But like some of the situations in Misty Hills before on the farm, there's a little bit of farm fatigue. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to play that down. I've spent a lot of time on this server, and I'm kind of feeling like I'm a little farm simmed out. So that is going to obviously impact what I do, because I haven't even had time to look. Well, I hit the wrong button. Too close to that pole. I can't get in. Can't disconnect my hoses. Alright. I mean, it's a good parking job. That's what I want, but come on. There we go. I'm like, there's got to be a way to disconnect the hoses. Alright. So we can pull the truck out a bit so that we're available if we need to move the tanker. But yeah, we've got 2,011,744 liters of potatoes that we're going to move. Likely, if I go ahead and show anything about accepting the contract, so you can see how to work with a broker, because I know that that's something I haven't done in this series. I've shown general contracts, but I haven't shown what happens when you're working with a commodity broker. So I'll probably include that in some other episode, the little bit of the transaction, because other than that, it's just chatting in Discord. I don't know that showing you what chat in Discord looks like is going to help with, so I'm not going to do that. But if I go here to the crop calendar, like clearly nothing can be grown until February, and that's if we wanted to grow cotton, which we're not going to do. Because frankly, I'm not going to invest in a ton of other equipment, if nothing else. But at least right now, I may do cotton in the future. I'm still hoping that there's going to be other crop types introduced over time. So we've got wheat and corn as the other things if we're trying to continue to do crops that help the Suez project. Again, obviously if I do wheat, I'm not even planting till almost a year from now, and then I'm harvesting almost a year later. Right now, I'm honestly saying that's almost tempting, because again, it gives me that week plus away from Farming Simulator in earnest. I mean, that doesn't mean I won't be doing things. Certainly in the course of all of this, I haven't touched honey in probably a year and a half on the farm. The amount of honey these bees have produced that is stacking up that we have to sell is going to be certainly an episode I'm going to be able to do, and I can, maybe do that over time, but I may feel like, hey, I want to do corn, and, I'd like to get stuff in, and at some point, the question is, because again, it's half of the field, if the harvest isn't too long, like I could then get wheat in the other side before I pick up the harvest, but that still requires some time commitment, and right now I'm just, this next year is not going to be the year that's going to happen. So that's some of my hesitation because I'm going to feel like I've wasted time if I grow corn and then wheat, and I don't do that. And so what I may do is do wheat and then corn. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it, because the reality is, I could plant this. I'm going to, again, have several months break, in which time I could kind of rev myself up, get corn in the ground in the other half of the field. But then it becomes a super busy set of harvests. They don't overlap, which is good. I mean, I'm going to have a break of a day at least between what they do. And my challenge here, however, is I'm so new to this farm and this field that I don't know the level of investment of time that it truly takes. I mean, the canola is probably an indicator. I must have been holding two keys. I obviously didn't mean to jump into my harvester there. That was surprising to me, as it probably was to you. So it just may be a continued slow pace on the farm. I'm trying to find my rhythm of what works with the available time in my life, and because I'm honestly feeling like I do enjoy the other sims, and I like having a point where I have enough of a mix where I can spend not necessarily a third of my time in each type, but obviously that's the mathematical easiness of it, is say, a third of what I'm doing is Farming Simulator, a third of what I'm doing is Train Simulator, a third of what I'm doing is a truck sim of some sort. If it ends up being 50% of what I do is Farm Sim, and the other 25 and 25, I mean, that's okay too. But right now I'm feeling like it's like 75% Farm Sim, and then I'm like binging on the others when I get an opportunity, which is why, once again, there's a lot of Train Sim videos in the pipeline, because I got 2 or 3 days and I just pounded out multiple missions there because I was just really enjoying it, and I hadn't done it for so long. And so I'd like to get it to be just more balanced. I guess you want to, if we did the proverbial work-life balance, my sim life balance seems off. The potatoes consumed my life. So one thing I did learn is I'm not going to plant 60 acres of potatoes again. If I continue to help out the Suez project with potatoes, it's going to be a smaller batch, and it's not going to be just the north side where I plant 54 acres of potatoes, because 6 acres, 10% or so, is not going to vary. And I do have to survey that south field to really make sure it is 60 acres, but mathematically that seems like probably where it's going to land. But so I'm curious. Let's go take a look at what we see on the Suez project before we wrap this episode up. Alright, so here's a real quick look at where we stand on the Suez project. We've obviously just started to get containers shipped in and delivered. It's 120,000. These two go together, is kind of how I understand it. And so we've just got 2,600 containers shipped in and less than 2,000 delivered. So, you know, that would clearly make sense if things are coming into basically the port of Alexandria and then they have to be trucked over to Port Said for the job delivery. So basically there's a discrepancy of about 700 or so containers that are waiting semis to haul them out. You know, we've got about a little over 1/6 of the bulldozers that are required, a little over 10% of the excavators, about 15% of the dump trucks. Just doing quick math, a little over 20% of the wheel loaders. Large generators are doing well. We're actually exceeding. We have 109 out of 100 medium generators. I'm not quite sure why folks would have contributed more, and does that actually do anything? Like, are we able to then generate more power and work more quickly? That I don't know. About 70% of the semis that are needed are here. Fuel, we're probably at a third. I'm just looking at the bar. Obviously the project fees were good last time, but we don't have any of these items, and this is where our potatoes are going, into the 7.5 million chips that are needed. So clearly there's stuff that needs to come, and you know, I'm not growing grapes, I'm not doing cows, so I can't contribute to these. So this is where with the corn and the bread, you know, I can contribute corn and wheat, and you know, I think the cereal also will take some of that. So I'm not sure, you know, I don't know that I can say it's what I expected. I mean, I'm glad to see that this is a project. I mean, again, if you think about building the Suez Canal, just like building the Panama Canal, which is I'm more familiar with, just because I've read some books on it. I haven't read anything on Suez, but I would imagine it's similar. I mean, these are multi-year, decades-long projects. And so my question was, the way this is staged and set up, is that how this is going to play out over time? Or are we suddenly going to be done in 2 or 3 game years and, you know, the whole canal's built? But it clearly isn't looking like that, because I've spent this game year gathering potatoes, and, you know, we're getting the equipment there, which is great, because we need that. And this is all just preparation, if we remember, in the project phase. So these excavators aren't starting to dig anything. They're not doing any of that. They're just getting there to start doing that. And then that will happen next time. And then I'm assuming we're going to have to continue to feed the workers. So I'm assuming with the farm side being tied in, we're still going to continue to have to supply product that way. But as opposed to getting equipment, the things on the meta side are probably going to shift to more of the construction, mining, production, whatever areas of meta actually come into play to make something like this happen. But that's where we're at on this, and I just wanted to give you that viewpoint before we head out of the farm. And you know, obviously the next video I'll give you a little bit more of where my head's at and what I'm doing, but I'm definitely not doing anything else on the farm today for certain. At a minimum, I might be back. Maybe I'll do the honey tomorrow. I don't know. It's just right now I need to take a breath, and I need to go away, because I've spent a long time with my butt in the seat of this semi, and I need that butt somewhere else. So I'll see you next time.